Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Ni hao, Buenos dias, Heseche, Akwaba, Welkomen. What up, though? This is weekly recorded recitations of Holy Scriptures. Today, the date is 724.8.3 semicolon 72 semicolon 1 full 9. And the portion for this week, it's a double portion this week. So it includes portions numero 27 y 28, which are Tazria and Metzora. So I just finished doing portion 27 Tazria. This is here, portion numero 28 Metzora. The second portion, the deuxième portion for this week. This includes within the Torah, Metzora, which is Vaikra 14:1 a 15:33. Within the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Vibhuti Yogahe, numero 10. Within the Digha Nikaya, it is the Mahasuddasana Sutta numero 17, chapter 2. Within the Gospels, it is Luke chapters 11 a 12. Within the Quran, it is Surah Luqman, Surah As-Sajda, and Surah Al-Ahzab, Surah Al-Azab, which are surahs 31 a 33. And within the Tao Te Ching, it is the beginning 6 chapters, 1 a 6, within the Tao Te Ching. So with that, we do some lessons. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah wabha. Deus noster qui es in celis, sanctificato nomen tuum, vahengu sanam. Daukadau fehunda. Ja. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam hamotzi lachem min haaretz. Kyrie eleison. Sivomastu savjigatehi. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Fagabia. Ubuntu. Shabana. Fekako. Akwaba. Upendana amani. Umejeka. Shishe. Kamasunida. Domo arigato. Pilama yela wakantoko. Tok odokashingu. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Go with the God. At the Jamiyata Fanami. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah wabha. Deus noster qui es in celis, sanctificato nomen tuum, vahengu sanam. Daukadau fehundau. Ja. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kasanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivan l'sok b'davai Torah. Kyrie eleison. Sivomastu savjigatehi. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Vagabia. Ubuntu. Shabana. Fekako. Akwaba. Upendana amani. Umejeka. Shishe. Kamasunida. Domo arigato. Pilama yela wakantoko. Tok odokashingun. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Go with the God. At the Jamayat Afanami. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Torah, Metzora, Vaikra 14:1 a 15:33. And the Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, This shall be the law of the person afflicted with Za'arat. On the day of his cleansing, he shall be brought to the Kohen. The Kohen shall go outside the camp, and the Kohen shall look, and behold, the lesion of Za'arat has healed in the afflicted person. Then the Kohen shall order, and the person shall be cleansed. The person to be cleansed shall take 2 live, clean birds, a cedar stick, a strip of crimson wool, and hyssop. The Kohen shall order, and one shall slaughter the one bird into an earthenware vessel over spring water. As for the live bird, he shall take it, and then the cedar stick and strip of crimson wool and the hyssop, and along with the live bird he shall dip them into the blood of the slaughtered bird over the spring water. He shall then sprinkle 7 times upon the person being cleansed from Metzora, and he shall cleanse him. He shall then send away the live bird into the open field. The person being cleansed shall then immerse his garments, shave off all his hair, and immerse himself in water and become clean. After this he may enter the camp, but he shall remain outside his tent for 7 days. And it shall be on the 7th day that he shall shave off all his hair, that of his head, his beard, his eyebrows, indeed all his hair he shall shave off. He shall then immerse his garments and immerse his flesh in water, thus becoming clean. And on the 8th day he shall take 2 unblemished male lambs, 1 unblemished ewe lamb in its first year, 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with olive oil as a meal offering, and 1 log of olive oil. And the Kohen who is performing the cleansing shall place the person being cleansed together with these 3 things before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And the Kohen shall take 1 male lamb and bring it as a guilt offering along with the log of oil, and wave them as a waving before the Lord. He shall slaughter the lamb in the place where one slaughters the sin offering and the burnt offering in a holy place. For regarding the Kohen's service, the guilt offering is like the sin offering. It is a holy of holies. The Kohen shall take some of the blood of the guilt offering, and the Kohen shall place it above the cartilage of the right ear of the person being cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand and on the big toe of his right foot. And the Kohen shall take some of the log of oil and pour it on the Kohen's left palm. The Kohen shall then dip his right index finger into some of the oil that is on his left palm, and sprinkle some of the oil with his index finger 7 times before the Lord. And some of the remainder of the oil that is in his palm the Kohen shall place on the cartilage of the right ear of the person being cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand and on the big toe of his right foot, and put on top of the blood of the guilt offering. And what is left over from the oil that is in the Kohen's palm, he shall place upon the head of the person being cleansed, and the Kohen shall effect atonement for him before the Lord. The Kohen shall then perform the service of the sin offering and effect atonement for the person being cleansed of his uncleanness. After this he shall slaughter the burnt offering. And the Kohen shall bring up the burnt offering and the meal offering to the altar. The Kohen shall thus effect atonement for him, and he shall be completely clean. But if he is poor, and cannot afford these sacrifices, he shall take 1 male lamb as a guilt offering for a waving to effect atonement for him, and 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with oil as a meal offering, and a log of oil, and 2 turtle doves or 2 young doves according to what he can afford. 1 shall be a sin offering, and 1 a burnt offering. And he shall bring them on the 8th day of his cleansing to the Kohen, to the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord. And the Kohen shall take the guilt offering lamb and the log of oil, and the Kohen shall wave them as a waving before the Lord. And he shall slaughter the guilt offering lamb, and the Kohen shall take some of the blood of the guilt offerings and place it on the cartilage of the right ear of the person being cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand and on the big toe of his right foot. And the Kohen shall then pour some of the oil into the left palm of the Kohen. And the Kohen shall sprinkle with his right index finger some of the oil that is in his left palm 7 times before the Lord. And the Kohen shall place some of the oil that is in his palm on the cartilage of the right ear of the person being cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand and on the big toe of his right foot, on the place of the blood of the guilt offering. And what is left over from the oil that is in the Kohen's palm he shall place upon the head of the person being cleansed to effect atonement for him before the Lord. He shall then perform the service of 1 of the turtle doves or of the young doves from whatever he can afford. From what he can afford, 1 as a sin offering and 1 as a burnt offering, besides the meal offering. And the Kohen shall effect atonement for the person being cleansed before the Lord. This is the law of one in whom there is a lesion of tzara'at, who cannot afford the full array of sacrifices when he is to be cleansed. And the Lord spoke to Moshe and Aaron, saying, When you come to the land of Canaan, which I am giving you as a possession, and I place a legion of tzara'at upon a house in the land of your possession, and the one to whom the house belongs comes and tells the Kohen, saying, Something like a legion has appeared to me in the house. The Kohen shall order that they clear out the house before the Kohen comes to look at the legion, so that everything in the house should not become unclean. After this the Kohen shall come to look at the house. and he shall look at the lesion. Now if the lesion in the walls of the house consists of dark green or dark red sunken looking stains, appearing as if deeper than the wall, then the Kohen shall go out of the house to the entrance of the house, and he shall quarantine the house for 7 days. Then the Kohen shall return on the 7th day and look at the house. Now if the lesion has spread in the walls of the house, the Kohen shall order that they remove the stones upon which the lesion is found, and they shall cast them away outside the city to an unclean place. And he shall scrape out the house from the inside all around, and they shall pour out the clay dust from what they scraped outside the city into an unclean place. And they shall take other stones and bring them instead of those stones, and he shall take other clay dust and plaster the house. And if the lesion returns and erupts in the house, and after he had removed the stones, and after the house had been scraped around, and after it had been plastered, then the Kohen shall come and look at it. Now if the lesion in the house has spread, it is malignant tzara'at in the house, it is unclean. He shall demolish the house, its stones, its wood, and all the clay dust of the house, and he shall take them outside the city to an unclean place. And anyone entering the house during all the days of its quarantine shall become unclean until the evening. And whoever lies down in the house shall immerse his garments, and whoever eats in the house shall immerse his garments. But if the Kohen comes again and looks at the lesion, and behold, the lesion did not spread in the house after the house has been plastered, the Kohen shall pronounce the house clean, because the lesion has healed. To ritually cleanse the house, he shall take 2 birds, a cedar stick, a strip of crimson wool, and hyssop. He shall slaughter 1 bird into an earthenware vessel over spring water. And he shall take the cedar stick, the hyssop, the strip of crimson wool, and the live bird, and he shall dip them into the blood of the slaughtered bird, and into the spring water, and sprinkle towards the house 7 times. And he shall thus cleanse the house with the blood of the bird, the spring water, the live bird, the cedar wool, the hyssop, and the strip of crimson wool. He shall then send away the live bird outside the city onto the open field. He shall thus effect atonement for the house, and it will be clean. All this is the law for every lesion of tzara'at, and for a netek, and for tzara'at of garments and houses, and for tzeit and for a sapachat, and for beheret, to render decisions regarding the day of uncleanness and the day of cleanness. This is the law of tzara'at. And the Lord spoke to Moshe and to Aaron, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, If any man has a discharge from his flesh, his discharge is unclean. And this shall be the nature of his uncleanness due to his discharge. If his flesh runs with his discharge, or if his flesh is plugged up by his discharge, that is his uncleanness. Any bedding upon which the man with the discharge will lie shall become unclean, and any object upon which he will sit shall be unclean. And a man who touches his bedding shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and he remain unclean until evening. And anyone who sits on an object upon which the man with the discharge will sit shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and he shall remain unclean until evening. And anyone who touches the flesh of the man with the discharge shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and he shall remain unclean until evening. And if the man with the discharge spits upon a clean person, that person shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and he shall remain unclean until evening. Any riding gear upon which the man with the discharge will ride becomes unclean, and whoever touches anything what will be under him becomes unclean until evening. And whoever lifts them up shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and he shall remain unclean until evening. And whomever the man with the discharge touches with the latter, having rinsed his hands, shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in the waters, and he shall remain unclean until evening. And an earthenware vessel which the man with the discharge will touch shall be broken, and any wooden vessel shall be rinsed in water. When the man with the discharge is cleansed of his discharge, he shall count 7 days for himself for his purification, and then immerse his garments and immerse his flesh in spring water, and he shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take for himself 2 turtle doves or 2 young doves, and come before the Lord to the entrance of the tent of meeting, and give them to the Kohen. And the Kohen shall make them one into a sin offering and one into a burnt offering, and the Kohen shall effect atonement for him from his discharge before the Lord. A man from whom there is a discharge of semen shall immerse all his flesh in water, and he shall remain unclean until evening. And any garment or any leather object which has semen on it shall be immersed in water, and shall remain unclean until evening. A woman with whom a man cohabits, whereby there was a discharge of semen, they shall immerse in water, and they shall remain unclean until evening. If a woman has a discharge, her flesh discharging blood, she shall remain in her state of menstrual separation for 7 days, and whoever touches her shall become unclean until evening. And whatever she lies on during her menstrual separation shall become unclean, and whatever she sits on shall become unclean. And anyone who touches her bedding shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and he shall remain unclean until evening. And anyone who touches any object upon which she will sit shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and he shall remain unclean until evening. And if he is on the bedding or on the object upon which she is sitting, when he touches it, he becomes unclean until evening. If a man cohabits with her, the uncleanness of her menstruation shall be upon him, and he shall be unclean for 7 days, and any bedding he lies upon shall become unclean. And a woman whose flow of blood flows for many days outside of the time of her menstrual separation, or she has a discharge after her menstrual separation, then all the days she has her unclean discharge she shall be unclean, just like the days of her menstrual separation. Any bedding upon which she lies during all the time of her discharge will have the same uncleanness for her as the bedding of her menstruation, and any object upon which she will sit shall become unclean, like her menstrual uncleanness. And anyone who touches them shall become unclean. He shall immerse his garments and immerse himself in water, and he shall remain unclean until evening. And if she becomes clean of her discharge, she shall count for herself 7 days, and after this she may be cleansed. And on the 8th day she shall take for herself 2 turtle doves or 2 young doves, and bring them to the Kohen to the entrance of the tent of meeting. And the Kohen shall make one into a sin offering and one into a burnt offering, and the Kohen shall effect atonement for her before the Lord from the uncleanness of her discharge. And you shall separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, so that they will not die on account of their uncleanness, if they defile my sanctuary which is in their midst. This is the law for one who has a discharge, and one from whom semen issues, through which he becomes unclean, and for a woman who has her menstrual flow, and for one who has a discharge, whether male or female, and a man who cohabits with an unclean woman. Bhagavad Gita, Vibhuti Yogahe. The Bhagavad Gita, Vibhuti Yogahe, numero 10. Shri Krishna said, "Once further, O mighty Arjuna, listen to my supreme word, which I, from a desire for your welfare, will impart to you to your great delight. Neither the host of celestial beings, nor the great sages, know my origin, for in all respects I am the source of the celestial beings and the sages. He who knows that I am unborn and without a beginning, and also that I am the supreme Lord of the worlds, he undiluted amongst living beings, is freed from all sins. Intelligence, knowledge, non-delusion, forbearance, truth, self-control and calmness, pleasure and pain, birth and death, fear and fearlessness, non-injury, equanimity, contentment, austerity, charity, fame, and obloquy. These different attributes of beings arise from me alone. The 7 great sages and the 4 Manus of ancient times endowed with my power were born of my mind, and from them have sprung all the creatures in the world. He who knows in truth this glory and power of mine acquires unshakable devotion. Of this there is no doubt. I am the origin of all. From me all things evolve. The wise know this and worship me with all their heart. With their thought fixed on me, with their life absorbed in me, enlightening one another about me, and always conversing about me, they derive satisfaction and delight." On those who are ever devoted to me in worship and worship me with love, I bestow the yoga of understanding by which they come to me. Solely out of compassion for them, I, dwelling in their hearts, dispel with the shining lamp of wisdom the darkness born of ignorance. Arjuna said, You are the supreme Brahman, the supreme abode, the supreme holiness. All the sages have declared you to be the eternal self-luminous person, the first of the celestial beings, unborn and all-pervading. Likewise have the divine sages Narada, Asita, Devala. Likewise have the holy sages Narada, Asita, Devala, and Vyasa proclaimed. So too have you said unto me. I hold as true all that you have said to me, O Kesava. Verily, neither the celestial beings nor demons, O Lord, know your manifestations. You alone know yourself through yourself, O Supreme Person, O Creator of all beings, O Lord of all beings, O God of celestial beings, O Ruler of the world. You should indeed tell me in full of your divine powers, whereby you pervade all the worlds and abide in them. How may I know you, O Yogi? By constant meditation. And what various things, O Lord, are you to be contemplated by me? Tell me once further in detail, O Janardana, of your yoga powers and glories, for I am never filled with hearing your ambrosial words. Sri Krishna said, I will tell you now of my divine attributes, O best of the Kurus, only of those that are preeminent, for there is no limit to my extent. I am the self, O Gedekesa, seated in the hearts of all creatures. I am the beginning, the middle, and the end of all beings. Of the Adityas, I am Vishnu. Of lights, I am the radiant soleil. I am Marichi of the Maruts, and amongst the orbs of night, I am the moon. Of the Vedas, I am the Saman. Of the celestial beings, I am Indra. Of the senses, I am the mind. And in living beings, I am intelligence. Of the Ruras, I am Siva. Of the Yaksas, I am Rakshasas. And of the Yaksas and Rakshasas, I am Kuvera. Of the Vasus, I am fire. And of mountains, I am Meru. Of priests, O Partha, know me to be the chief Brihaspati. Of generals, I am Skanda. Of reservoirs of water, I am the ocean. Of the great rishis, I am Brigu. And of words, I am the monosyllable Om. Of sacrifices, I am the sacrifice of Japa. Of immovable things, I am the Himalaya. Of all trees, I am the Asvata. And of the Devarshis, I am Narada. Of the Gandharvas, I am Titarata. Of the perfected ones, I am the sage of Kapila. Of weapons, I am the thunderbolt. Of cows, I am Kamaduk. I am Kandarpa, the cause of offspring, and the serpent. And of serpents, I am Vasuki. Of horses, know me to be Uchais Sravas, born of the Amrita. Of masterly elephants, I am Airavata. And of men, I am the monarch. Of the Nagas, I am Ananta. Of the dwellers in water, I am Varuna. Of the Pitris, I am Aryama. And of those that practice self-control, I am Yama. Of the Daityas, I am Prahlada. And of measures, I am time. Of beasts, I am the lion. And of birds, I am Garuda. Of purifiers, I am the wind. Of warriors, I am Rama. Of fishes, I am the shark. And of rivers, I am the Ganges. Of created things, I am the beginning and the end, and also the middle, O Arjuna. Of all sciences, I am the science of the self, and in disputation, I am reason. Of letters, I am the letter A, and of compound words, I am the Dvanda. I am myself, I am inexhaustible time, and I am the dispenser facing everywhere. I am all-seizing death. I am the prosperity of those who are to be prosperous, and of female powers, I am glory, fortune, speech, memory, intelligence, constancy, and forbearance. Of the Saman hymns, I am the Brihat Saman. And of the meters, I am the Gayatri. Of months, I am Margashirsa. Of seasons, I am the flowery spring. I am the gambling of cheats. I am the vigor of the strong. I am victory. I am effort. I am the quality of sattva in the benevolent. Of the Yadavas, I am Vasudeva. Of the Pandavas, I am Arjuna. Of the sages, I am Vyasa. And of seers, I am Usanas, the seer. I am the rod of those that chastise, and the statesmanship of those that conquer. Of secret things, I am silence. And of the wise, I am the wisdom. And that which is the seed of all beings, that am I, O Arjuna. There is no being, whether moving or unmoving, that can exist without me. There is no end of my divine manifestations, O dreaded Arjuna. This is but a partial statement by me of the multiplicity of my attributes. Whatever glorious or beautiful or mighty being exists anywhere, know that it has sprung from but a spark of my splendor. But what need is there of your acquiring this detailed knowledge, O Arjuna? With a single fragment of myself, I stand supporting the whole universe. Dignikaya, the Mahasudasana Sutta 17 chapter 2. Now there occurred, Ananda, this thought to the great King of Glory. Of what previous character now may this be the fruit? Of what previous character the result that I am now so mighty and so great? And then occurred, Ananda, to the great King of Glory this thought. Of three qualities is this the fruit, of three qualities the result that I am now so mighty and so great. That is to say, of giving, of self-conquest, and of self-control. Now the great King of Glory, Ananda, ascended up to the chamber of the great complex, and when he had come there, he stood at the door, and there he broke out into a cry of intense emotion. Stay here, O thoughts of lust. Stay here, O thoughts of ill will. Stay here, O thoughts of hatred. Thus distant only, O thoughts of lust. Thus distant only, O thoughts of ill will. Thus distant only, O thoughts of hatred. And when Ananda, the great King of Glory, had entered the chamber of the great complex, and had seated himself upon the couch of gold, having put away all passion and all unrighteousness, he entered into and remained in the first jhana, a state of joy and ease born of seclusion, full of reflection, full of investigation. By suppressing reflection and investigation, he entered into and remained in the second jhana, a state of joy and ease born of serenity, without reflection, without investigation, a state of elevation of mind and internal calm. By absence of the longing after joy, he remained indifferent, conscious, self-possessed, experiencing in his body that ease which the noble ones announce, saying, the man indifferent and self-possessed is well at ease. And thus he entered into and remained in the third jhana. By putting away ease, by putting away pain, by the previous dying away both of gladness and of sorrow, he entered into and remained in the fourth jhana, a state of purified self-possession and equanimity, without ease and without pain. Then Ananda, the great King of Glory, went out from the chamber of the great complex and entered the golden chamber and sat himself down on the silver couch. And he let his mind pervade one quarter of the world with thoughts of love, and so the second quarter, and so the third, and so the fourth. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, did he continue to pervade with heart of love, distant reaching, going great and beyond measure, free from the least trace of anger or ill will. And he let his mind pervade one quarter of the world with thoughts of pity, and so the second quarter, and so the third, and so the fourth. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, did he continue to pervade with heart of pity, distant reaching, grown great and beyond measure, free from the least trace of anger or ill will. And he let his mind pervade one quarter of the world with thoughts of sympathy, and so the second quarter, and so the third, and so the fourth. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, did he continue to pervade with the heart of sympathy, distant reaching, grown great and beyond measure, free from the least trace of anger or ill will. And he let his mind pervade one quarter of the world with thoughts of equanimity, and so the second quarter, and so the third, and so the fourth. And thus the whole wide world, above, below, around, and everywhere, did he continue to pervade with heart of equanimity, distant reaching, grown great and beyond measure, free from the least trace of anger or ill will. The great King of Glory, Ananda, had 480,000 cities, the chief of which was the royal city of Kusavati, 480,000 palaces, the chief of which was the palace of righteousness, 480,000 chambers, the chief of which was the chamber of the great complex, 480,000 divans of gold and silver and ivory and sandalwood, spread with long-haired rugs and cloths embroidered with flowers, and magnificent antelope skins covered with lofty canopies, and provided at both ends with purple cushions. 480,000 state elephants with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which the king of elephants, called the changes of the moon, was chief. 480,000 state horses with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of networks, of which Thundercloud, the king of horses, was the chief. 480,000 chariots with coverings of the skins of lions and of tigers and of panthers, of which the chariot called the flag of victory was the chief. 480,000 gems, of which the wondrous gem was the chief. 480,000 wives, of whom the Queen of Glory was the chief. 480,000 yeomen, of whom the wonderful steward was the chief. 480,000 nobles, of whom the wonderful advisor was the chief. 480,000 cows with jute trappings, the horns tipped with bronze. 480,000 myriads of garments of delicate textures, of flax and cotton and silk and wool. 480,000 dishes in which in the evening and in the matin rice was served. Now at that time, Ananda, the 480,000 state elephants used to come every evening and every matin to be of service to the great King of Glory, and this thought occurred to the great King of Glory. These 80,000 elephants come every evening and every matin to be of service to me. Now let the elephants come, O my friend, the great advisor, in alternate 40,000, each every alternate 100 years. Then Ananda, the great King of Glory, said to the great advisor, O my friend, the great advisor, these 80,000 elephants come every evening and every matin to be of service to me. Now let the elephants come, O my friend, the great advisor, in alternate 40,000s, once each every alternate 100 years. Even so, master, said the wonderful advisor, in assent to the great King of Glory. From that time forth, Ananda, the elephants came in alternate 40,000s, once each every alternate 100 years. Now, Ananda, after the lapse of many years, of many hundred years, of many thousands years, there occurred to the great Queen of Glory this thought: 'Tis long since I have beheld the great King of Glory. Suppose now I were to go and visit the great King of Glory. Then Ananda, the great Queen of Glory, said to the women of the harem, Arise now, dress your hair, and clad yourselves in fresh raiment. 'Tis long since we have beheld the great King of Glory. Let us go and visit the great King of Glory. Even so, lady, said the women of the harem, Ananda, in assent to the Queen of Glory. And they dressed their hair and clad themselves in fresh raiment and came near to the Queen of Glory. Then Ananda, the Queen of Glory, said to the great advisor, Arrange, O great advisor, the fourfold army in array. 'Tis long since I have beheld the great King of Glory. I am about to go to visit the great King of Glory. Even so, O Queen, said the great advisor, Ananda, in assent to the Queen of Glory. And he set the fourfold army in array and had the fact announced to the Queen of Glory in the words, The fourfold army, O Queen, is set for thee in array. Do now whatever seemeth to thee fit. Then Ananda, the Queen of Glory, with the fourfold army, repaired with the women of the harem to the palace of righteousness. And when she had arrived there, she mounted up into the palace of righteousness and went on to the chamber of the great complex. And when she had reached it, she stopped and leant against the side of the door. When Ananda, the great King of Glory, heard the noise, he thought, What now may this noise, as of a great multitude of people, mean? And going out from the chamber of the great complex, he beheld the Queen of Glory standing leaning up against the side of the door. And when he beheld her, he said to the Queen of Glory, Stop there, O Queen, enter not. Then the great King of Glory, Ananda, said to one of his attendants, Arise, benevolent man, take the golden couch out of the chamber of the great complex and make it ready under that grove of palm trees which is all of gold. Even so, master, said the man, in assent to the great King of Glory. And he took the golden couch out of the chamber of the great complex and made it ready under that grove of palm trees, which was all of gold. Then Ananda, the great King of Glory, laid himself down in the dignified way a lion does, and lay with one leg resting on the other, calm and self-possessed. Then Ananda, there occurred to the Queen of Glory this thought: How calm are all the limbs of the great King of Glory! How clear and bright is his appearance! Oh, may it not be that the great King of Glory is dead! And she said to the great King of Glory, Thine, O King, are those 480,000 cities, the chief of which is the royal city of Kusavati. Arise, O King, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O King, are those 480,000 palaces, the chief of which is the palace of righteousness. Arise, O King, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O King, are those 480,000 chambers, the chief of which is the chamber of the great complex. Arise, O King, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O King, are those 480,000 divans of gold and silver and ivory and sandalwood spread with long-haired rugs and cloths embroidered with flowers and magnificent antelope skins, covered with lofty canopies and provided at both ends with purple cushions. Arise, O King, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O King, are those 480,000 state elephants with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which the King of Elephants called the changes of the moon is chief. Arise, O King, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O King, are those 480,000 state horses with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which Thundercloud, the king of horses, is the chief. Arise, O King, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O King, are those 480,000 chariots with coverings of skins of lions, and of tigers, and of panthers, of which the chariot called the flag of victory is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 gems, of which the wondrous gem is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 wives, of whom the queen of glory is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 yeomen, of whom the wonderful steward is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 nobles, of whom the wonderful advisor is the chief. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 cows with jute trappings and horns tipped with bronze. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 myriads of garments of delicate textures, of flax and cotton and silk and wool. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. Thine, O king, are those 480,000 dishes, in which in the evening and in the matin rice is served. Arise, O king, reawaken thy desire for these, quicken thy longing after life. When she had thus spoken, Ananda, the great king of glory, said to the queen of glory, Long hast thou addressed me, O queen, in pleasant words much to be desired and sweet. Yet now, in this last time, you speak in words unpleasant, disagreeable, not to be desired. How then, O king, shall I address thee? Thus, O queen, shouldst thou address me. The nature of all things near and dear to us, O king, is such that we must leave them, divide ourselves from them, separate ourselves from them. Pass not away, O king, with longing in thy heart. Sad is the death of him who longs. Unworthy is the death of him who longs. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 cities, the chief of which is the royal city of Kusavati. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 palaces, the chief of which is the palace of righteousness. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 chambers, the chief of which is the chamber of the great complex. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 divans of gold and silver and ivory and sandalwood, spread with long-haired rugs and cloths embroidered with flowers and magnificent antelope skins, covered with lofty canopies and provided at both ends with purple cushions. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 state elephants with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which the king of elephants, called the changes of the moon, is chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 state horses with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which Thundercloud, the king of horses, is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 chariots with coverings of the skins of lions and of tigers and of panthers, of which the chariot called the flag of victory is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 gems, of which the wondrous gem is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 wives, of whom the queen of glory is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 yeomen, of whom the wonderful steward is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 nobles, of whom the wonderful advisor is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 cows with jute trappings and horns tipped with bronze. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 myriads of garments of delicate textures, of flax and cotton and silk and wool. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 dishes, in which in the evening and in the matin rice is served. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. When he thus spake, Ananda, the queen of glory, wept and poured forth tears. Then Ananda, the queen of glory, wiped away her tears and addressed the great king of glory and said, The nature of all things near and dear to us, O king, is such that we must leave them, divide ourselves from them, separate ourselves from them. Pass not away, O king, with longing in thy heart. Sad is the death of him who longs. Unworthy is the death of him who longs. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 cities, the chief of which is the royal city of Kusavati. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 palaces, the chief of which is the palace of righteousness. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 chambers, the chief of which is the chamber of the great complex. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 divans of gold and silver and ivory and sandalwood, spread with long-haired rugs and cloths embroidered with flowers and magnificent antelope skins, covered with lofty canopies and provided at both ends with purple cushions. Cast away desire for these, long not after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 state elephants with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which the king of elephants, called the changes of the moon, is chief. Cast away desire for these, long night after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 state horses with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which Thundercloud, the king of horses, is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long night after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 chariots with coverings of the skins of lions and of tigers and of panthers, of which the chariot called the flag of victory is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long night after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 gems, of which the wondrous gem is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long night after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 wives, of whom the queen of glory is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long night after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 yeomen, of whom the wonderful steward is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long night after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 nobles, of whom the wonderful advisor is the chief. Cast away desire for these, long night after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 cows with jute trappings and horns tipped with bronze. Cast away desire for these, long night after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 myriads of garments of delicate textures of flax and cotton and silk and wool. Cast away desire for these, long night after life. Long night after life. Thine, O king, are these 480,000 dishes, in which in the evening and in the meantime rice is served. Cast away desire for these, long night after life. Then immediately Ananda, the great king of glory, died. Just Ananda, as when a yaman has eaten a hearty meal, he becomes all drowsy, just so were the feelings he experienced, Ananda, as death came upon the great king of glory. When the great king of glory, Ananda, had died, he came to life again in the happy world of Brahma. For 48,000 years, Ananda, the great king of glory, lived the happy life of a prince. For 48,000 years, he was viceroy and heir apparent. For 48,000 years, he ruled the kingdom, and for 48,000 years, he lived as a layman, the noble life in the palace of righteousness. And then, when full of noble thoughts, he died, he entered, after the dissolution of the body, the noble world of Brahma. Now it may be, Ananda, that you may think the great king of glory of that time was another person. But Ananda, you should not view the matter thus. I at that time was the great king of glory. Mine at that time were the 480,000 cities, of which the chief was the royal city of Kusavati. Mine were the 480,000 palaces, of which the chief was the palace of righteousness. Mine were the 480,000 chambers, of which the chief was the chamber of the great complex. Mine were the 480,000 divans of gold and silver and ivory and sandalwood, spread with long-haired rugs and cloths embroidered with flowers and magnificent antelope skins, covered with lofty canopies and provided at both ends with purple cushions. Mine were the 480,000 state elephants with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which the king of elephants, called the changes of the moon, was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 state horses with trappings of gold and gilded flags and golden coverings of network, of which Thundercloud, the king of horses, was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 chariots with coverings of the skins of lions and of tigers and of panthers, of which the chariot called the flag of victory was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 gems, of which the wondrous gem was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 wives, of whom the queen of glory was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 yeomen, of whom the wonderful steward was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 nobles, of whom the wonderful advisor was the chief. Mine were the 480,000 cows with jute trappings and horns tipped with bronze. Mine were the 480,000 myriads of garments of delicate textures of flax and cotton and silk and wool. Mine were the 480,000 dishes, in which in the evening and in the matin rice is served. Of those 480,000 cities, Ananda, one was that city in which at that time I used to dwell, to wit, the royal city of Kutavati. Of those 480,000 palaces too, Ananda, one was that palace in which at that time I used to dwell, to wit, the palace of righteousness. Of those 480,000 chambers too, Ananda, one was that chamber in which at that time I used to dwell, to wit, the chamber of the great complex. Of those 480,000 divans too, Ananda, one was that divan which at that time I used to occupy, to wit, one of gold or one of silver or one of ivory or one of sandalwood. Of those 480,000 state elephants too, Ananda, one was that elephant which at that time I used to ride, to wit, the king of elephants, the changes of the moon. Of those 480,000 horses too, Ananda, one was that horse to wit which at that time I used to ride, to wit, the king of horses, the thundercloud. Of those 480,000 chariots too, Ananda, one was that chariot in which at that time I used to ride, to wit, the chariot called the flag of victory. Of those 480,000 wives, two, Ananda, one was that wife who at that time used to wait upon me, to wit, either a lady of noble birth or of Vedamikani. Of those 480,000 myriads of suits of apparel, two, Ananda, one was the suit of apparel which at that time I wore, to wit, one of delicate texture, of linen or cotton or silk or wool. Of those 480,000 dishes, two, Ananda, one was that dish from which at that time I ate a measure of rice and the curry suitable thereto. See, Ananda, how all these things are now past, are ended, have vanished away. Thus impermanent, Ananda, are component things. Thus transitory, Ananda, are component things. Thus untrustworthy, Ananda, are component things. Insomuch, Ananda, is it meet to be wary of it, to be weary of? Is it meet to be estranged from? Is it meet to be set quite free from the bondage of all component things? Now I call to mind, Ananda, how in this spot my body had been 6 times buried. And when I was dwelling here as the righteous king who ruled in righteousness, the master of the 4 regions of the earth, the conqueror, the protector of his people, the possessor of the 7 royal treasures, that was the 7th time. But I behold not any spot, Ananda, in the world of men and celestial beings, nor in the world of Mara, nor in the world of Brahma, no, not amongst the race of Samanas or Brahmins, of celestial beings or men, where the Tathagata for the 8th time will lay aside his body. Thus spake the Blessed One, and when the Happy One had thus spoken, once again the teacher said, how transient are all component things. Growth is their nature and decay. They are produced, they are dissolved again. Their stilling is happiness. Gospels, Luke 11:12. One day Jesus was praying in a certain place. When he finished, one of his disciples said to him, Master, teach us to pray, just as John taught his disciples. He said to them, when you pray, say, Creator, hallowed be your name. Your sovereignty come. Give us each day our daily bread. Forgive us our sins, for we also forgive everyone who sins against us. And lead us not into temptation. Then Jesus said to them, suppose you have a friend, and you go to him at midnight and say, Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread. A friend of mine on a journey has come to me, and I have no food to offer him. And suppose the one inside answers, Don't bother me. The door is already locked, and my children and I are in bed. I can't get up and give you anything. I tell you, even though he will not get up and give you the bread because of your friendship, yet because of your shameless audacity, he will surely get up and give you as much as you need. So I say to you, ask and it will be given to you, seek and you will find, knock and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives, the one who seeks finds, and the one who knocks the door will be open. And to the one who knocks the door will be open. Which of you fathers, if your son asks for a fish, will give him a snake instead? Or if he asks for an egg, will give him a scorpion? If you then, though you are evil, know how to give benevolent gifts to your children, how much further will your Creator in heaven give the Holy Spirit to those who ask God? Jesus was driving out a demon that was mute. When the demon left, the man who had been mute spoke, and the crowd was amazed. But some of them said, By Beelzebul, the prince of demons, he is driving out demons. Others tested him by asking for a sign from heaven. Jesus knew their thoughts and said to them, Any kingdom divided against itself will be ruined, and a house divided against itself will fall. If Satan is divided against himself, how can his kingdom stand? I say this because you claim that I drive out demons by Beelzebul. Now if I drive out demons by Beelzebul, by whom do your followers drive them out? So then they will be your judges. But if I drive out demons by the finger of God, then the sovereignty of God has come upon you. When a strong man fully armed guards his own house, his possessions are safe. But when someone stronger than attacks and overpowers him, he takes away the armor in which the man trusted and divides up his plunder. Whoever is not with me is against me, and whoever does not gather with me scatters. When an impure spirit comes out of a person, it goes through arid places, seeking rest, and does not find it. Then it says, I will return to the house I left. When it arrives, it finds the house swept clean and put in order. Then it goes and takes 7 other spirits further wicked than itself, and they go in and live there. And the final condition of that person is worse than the first. As Jesus was saying these things, a woman in the crowd called out, Blessed is the more who gave you birth and nursed you. He replied, Blessed rather are those who hear the word of God and obey it. As the crowds increased, Jesus said, This is a wicked generation. It asks for a sign, but none will be given it except the sign of Jonah. For as Jonah was a sign to the Ninevites, so also will the Son of Man be to this generation. The queen of the south will rise at the judgment with the people of this generation and condemn them, for she came from the ends of the earth to listen to Solomon's wisdom, and now something greater than Solomon is here. The men of Nineveh will stand up and at the judgment with this generation and condemn it, for they repented at the preaching of Jonah, and now something greater than Jonah is here. No one lights a lamp and puts it in a place where it will be hidden or under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand so that those who come in may see the light. Your eye is the lamp of your body. When your eyes are healthy, your whole body also is full of light. But when they are unhealthy, your body also is full of darkness. See to it, then, that the light within you is not darkness. Therefore, if your whole body is full of light, and no part of it dark, it will be just as full of light as when a lamp shines its light on you. When Jesus had finished speaking, a Pharisee invited him to eat with him, so he went in and reclined at the table. But the Pharisee was surprised when he noticed that Jesus did not first wash before the meal. Then the master said to him, Now then, you Pharisees, clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside you are full of greed and wickedness. You foolish people, did not the one who made the outside make the inside also? But now, as for what is inside you, be generous to the poor, and everything will be clean for you. Woe to you Pharisees, because you give God a tenth of your mint, rue, and all other kinds of garden herbs, but you neglect justice and the love of God. You should have practiced the latter without leaving the former undone. Woe to you Pharisees, because you love the most important seats in the synagogues and respectful greetings in the marketplaces. Woe to you, because you are like unmarked graves, which people walk over without knowing it. One of the experts in the law answered him, Teacher, when you say these things, you insult us also. Jesus replied, And you experts in the law, woe to you, because you load people down with burdens they can hardly carry, and you yourselves will not lift one finger to help them. Woe to you, because you build tombs for the prophets, and it was your ancestors who killed them. So you testify that you approve of what your ancestors did. They killed the prophets, and you build their tombs. Because of this, God, in God's wisdom, said, I will send them prophets and apostles, some of whom they will kill, and others they will persecute. Therefore this generation will be held responsible for the blood of all the prophets that has been shed since the beginning of the world, from the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who was killed between the altar and the sanctuary. Yes, I tell you, this generation will be held responsible for it all. Woe to you, experts in the law, because you have taken away the key to knowledge. You yourselves have not entered, and you have hindered those who were entering. When Jesus went outside, the Pharisees and the teachers of the law began to oppose him fiercely and to besiege him with questions, waiting to catch him in something he might say. Meanwhile, when a crowd of many thousands had gathered so that they were trampling on one another, Jesus began to speak first to his disciples, saying, Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees, which is hypocrisy. There is nothing concealed that will not be disclosed, or hidden that will not be made known. What you have said in the dark will be heard in the daylight, and what you have whispered in the inner rooms will be proclaimed from the roofs. I tell you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, and after that can do no further. But I will show you whom you should fear. Fear God, who after your body has been killed has authority to throw you into hell. Yes, I tell you, fear God. Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God. Indeed, the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Don't be afraid. You are worth further than many sparrows. I tell you, whoever publicly acknowledges me before others, the Son of Man will also acknowledge before the angels of God. But whoever disowns me before others will be disowned before the angel of God. And everyone who speaks a word against the Son of Man will be forgiven, but anyone who blasphemes against the Holy Spirit will not be forgiven. When you are brought before synagogues, rulers, and authorities, do not worry about how you will defend yourselves or what you will say. For the Holy Spirit will teach you at that time what you should say. Someone in the crowd said to him, Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. Jesus replied, Man, who appointed me a judge or an arbiter between you? Then he said to him, Watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed. Life does not consist in abundance of possessions. And he told them this parable. The ground of a certain rich man yielded an abundant harvest. He thought to himself, What shall I do? I have no place to store my crops. Then he said, This is what I'll do. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones, and there I will store my surplus grain. And I'll say to myself, You have plenty of grain laid up for many years. Take life easy, eat, drink, and be merry. But God said to him, You fool, this very night your life will be demanded from you. Then who will get what you have prepared for yourself. This is how it will be with whoever stores up things for themselves but is not rich towards God. Then Jesus said to his disciples, "Therefore I tell you, do not worry about your life, what you will eat, or about your body, what you will wear. For life is further than food, and body further than clothes. Consider the ravens; they do not sow or reap; they have no storeroom or barn, yet God feeds them. And how much further valuable are you than birds? Who of you, by worrying, can add a single hour to your life? Since you cannot do this very little thing, why do you worry about the rest? Consider how the wildflowers grow. They do not labor or spin, yet I tell you, not even Solomon in all his splendor was dressed like one of these. If that is how God clothes the grass of the field, which is here today and mañana is thrown into the fire, how much further will God clothe you, you of little faith? And do not set your heart on what you will eat or drink. Do not worry about it. For the pagan world runs after all such things, and your Creator knows that you need them. But seek God's sovereignty, and these things will be given to you as well. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Creator has been pleased to give you the sovereignty. Sell your possessions and give to the poor, and provide purses for yourselves that will not wear out, a treasure in heaven will never fail, where no thief comes near and no moth destroys. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Be dressed ready for service and keep your lamps burning, like servants waiting for their master to return from a wedding banquet, so that when he comes and knocks, they can immediately open the door for him. It will be benevolent for those servants whose master finds them watching when he comes. Truly I tell you, he will dress himself to serve, will have them recline at the table, and will come and wait on them. It will be benevolent for those servants whose master finds them ready, even if he comes in the middle of the night or towards the daybreak. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known at what hour the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be ready, because the Son of Man will come at an hour when you do not expect him." Peter asked, "Master, are you telling this parable to us or to everyone?" The master said, "Who then is the faithful and wise manager whom the master puts in charge of his servants to give them their food allowance at the proper time? It will be benevolent for that servant whom the master finds doing so when he returns. Truly I tell you, he will put him in charge of all his possessions. But suppose the servant says to himself, 'My master is taking a long time in coming,' and he then begins to beat the other servants, both men and women, and to eat and drink and get drunk. The master of that servant will come on a day when he does not expect him, and at an hour he is not aware of. He will cut him into portions and assign him a place with the unbelievers. The servant who knows the master's will and does not get ready or does not do what the master wants will be beaten with many blows. But the one who does not know and does things deserving punishment will be beaten with few blows. From everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded, and from the one who has been entrusted with much, much further will be asked. I have come to bring fire on the earth, and how I wish it were already kindled. But I have a baptism to undergo, and what constraint I am under until it is completed." Do you think I came to bring peace on earth? No, I tell you, but division. From now on there will be 5 in one family divided against each other, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, far against son, and son against far, more against daughter, and daughter against more, more-in-law against daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against more-in-law. He said to the crowd, "When you see a cloud rising in the west, immediately you say, 'It's going to rain,' and it does. And when the south wind blows, you say, 'It's going to be hot,' and it is. Hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of the earth and the sky. How is it that you don't know how to interpret this present time? Why don't you judge for yourselves what is right? As you are going with your adversary to the magistrate, try hard to be reconciled on the way, or your adversary may drag you off to the judge, and the judge to turn you over to the officer, and the officer throw you into prison. I tell you, you will not get out until you have paid the last penny." Quran, Surah Luqman, Surah As-Sajda, Surah Al-Azab, 31 a 33. Surah Luqman. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Alif Lam Mim. These are the verses of the wise book, a guide and a mercy to the doers of benevolence. those who establish regular prayer and give regular charity and have in their hearts the assurance of the hereafter. These are on true guidance from their Lord, and these are the ones who will prosper. But there are amongst men those who purchase idle tales without knowledge or meaning to mislead men from the path of Allah and throw ridicule on the path. For such there will be a humiliating penalty. When our signs are rehearsed to such a one, he turns away in arrogance, as if he heard them not, as if there were a deafness in both his ears. Announce to him a grievous penalty. For those who believe and work righteous deeds, there will be gardens of bliss, to dwell therein. The promise of Allah is true, and Allah is exalted in power, wise. Allah created the heavens without any pillars that ye can see. Allah set on the earth mountains, standing firm, lest it should shake with you. And Allah scattered through it beasts of all kinds. We send down rain from the sky and produce on the earth every kind of noble creature in pairs. Such is the creation of Allah. Now show me what is there that others besides Allah have created. Nay, but the transgressors are in manifest error. We bestowed in the past wisdom on Luqman. Show thy gratitude to Allah. Any who is so grateful does so to the benefit of his own soul. But if any is ungrateful, verily Allah is free of all wants, worthy of all praise. Behold, Luqman said to his son by way of instruction, O my son, join not in worship others with Allah, for false worship is indeed the highest wrongdoing. And we have enjoined on man to be benevolent to his parents, and travail upon travail did his more bear him, and in years twain was his weaning. Hear the command. Show gratitude to me and to thy parents, to me is thy final goal. But if they strive to make thee join in worship with me things of which thou hast no knowledge, obey them not. Yet bear them company in this life with justice and consideration, and follow the way of those who turn to me in love. In the end, the return of you all is to me, and I will tell you the truth and meaning of all that ye did. O my son, said Luqman, if there be but the weight of a mustard seed, and it were hidden in a rock or anywhere in the heavens or on earth, Allah will bring it forth, for Allah understands the finest mysteries and is well acquainted with all them. O my son, establish regular prayer and enjoin what is just, and forbid what is wrong, and bear with patient constancy whatever betide thee, for this is firmness of purpose in the conduct of affairs. And swell not thy cheek for pride at men, nor walk in insolence through the earth, for Allah loveth not any arrogant boaster. And be moderate in thy pace, and lower thy voice, for the harshest of sounds, without doubt, is the braying of the ass. Do ye not see that Allah has subjected to your utilization all things in the heavens and on earth, and has made Allah's bounties flow to you in exceeding measure, both seen and unseen? Yet there are amongst men those who dispute about Allah, without knowledge and without guidance, and without a book to enlighten them. When they are told to follow the revelation that Allah has sent down, they say, Nay, we shall follow the ways that we found our fathers following. What? Even if it is Satan beckoning them to the penalty of the blazing fire. Whoever submits his whole self to Allah and is a doer of benevolence has grasped indeed the most trustworthy handhold, and with Allah rests the end and decision of all affairs. But if any reject faith, let not his rejection grieve thee. To us is their return, and we shall tell them the truth of their deeds, for Allah knows well all that is in men's hearts. We grant them their pleasure for a little while, in the end shall we drive them to a chastisement unrelenting. If thou ask them who it is that created the heavens and the earth, they will certainly say Allah. Say, praise be to Allah, but most of them understand not. To Allah belong all things in heaven and earth. Verily Allah is Allah, that is free of all wants, worthy of all praise. And if all the trees on earth were pens, and the ocean were ink, with 7 oceans behind it to add to its supply, yet would not the words of Allah be exhausted in the writing, for Allah is exalted in power, full of wisdom. And your creation or your resurrection is in no wise but as an individual soul, for Allah is Allah who hears and sees all things. Seest thou not that Allah merges night into day, and Allah merges day into night, that Allah has subjected the soleil and the moon to Allah's law, each running its course for a term appointed, and that Allah is well acquainted with all that ye do? That is because Allah is the only reality, and because whatever else they invoke besides Allah is falsehood, and because Allah is the Most High, Most Great. Seest thou not that the ships sail through the ocean by the grace of Allah, that Allah may show you of Allah's signs? Verily in this are signs for all who constantly persevere and give thanks. When a wave covers them like the canopy of clouds, they call to Allah, offering Allah sincere devotion. But when Allah has delivered them safely to land, there are amongst them those that halt between right and wrong, but none reject our signs except only a perfidious, ungrateful wretch. O mankind, do your duty to your Lord, and fear the coming of a day when no far can avail aught for his son, nor a son avail aught for his far. Verily the promise of Allah is true. Let not then this present life deceive you, nor let the chief deceiver deceive you about Allah. Verily the knowledge of the hour is with Allah alone. It is Allah who sends down rain, and Allah knows what is in the wombs, nor does anyone know what is it that he will earn on mañana, nor does anyone know in what land he is to die. Verily with Allah is full knowledge, and Allah is acquainted with all things. Surah As-Sajda 32. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Alif Lam Mim. This is the revelation of the book in which there is no doubt, from the Lord of the worlds. Or do they say he has forged it? Nay, it is the truth from thy Lord, that thou mayest admonish the people to whom no warner has come before thee, in order that they may receive guidance. It is Allah who has created the heavens and the earth and all between them in 6 days, and is firmly established on the throne of authority. Ye have none besides Allah to protect or intercede for you. Will ye not then receive admonition? Allah rules all affairs from the heavens to the earth. In the end will all affairs go up to Allah, on a day the space whereof will be as 1,000 years of your reckoning. Such is Allah, the knower of all things, hidden and open, the exalted in power, the merciful. Allah who has made everything which Allah has created, most benevolent. Allah began the creation of man with nothing further than clay, and made his progeny from a quintessence of the nature of a fluid despised. But Allah fashioned him in due proportion, and breathed into him something of Allah's spirit, and Allah gave you the faculties of hearing and sight and feeling and understanding. Little thanks do ye give. And they say, what, when we lie hidden and lost in the earth, shall we indeed be in a creation renewed? Nay, they deny the meeting with their Lord. Say, the angel of death put in charge of you will duly take your souls, then shall ye be brought back to your Lord. If only thou couldst see when the guilty ones will bend low their heads before their Lord, saying, Our Lord, we have seen and we have heard. Now then send us back to the world. We will work righteousness, for we do indeed now believe. If we had so willed, we could certainly have brought every soul its true guidance. But the word from me will come true. I will fill hell with jinns and men altogether. Taste ye then, for ye forgot the meeting of this day of yours, and we too will forget you. Taste ye the penalty of eternity for your evil deeds. Only those believe in our signs who, when they are recited to them, fall down in adoration and celebrate the praises of their Lord, nor are they ever puffed up with pride. Their limbs do forsake their beds of sleep, the while they call on their Lord, in fear and hope, and they spend in charity out of the sustenance which we have bestowed on them. Now no person knows what delights of the eye are kept hidden in reserve for them as reward for their benevolent deeds. Is then the man who believes no better than the man who is rebellious and wicked? Not equal are they. For those who believe and do righteous deeds are gardens as hospitable homes for their benevolent deeds. As to those who are rebellious and wicked, their abode will be the fire. Every time they wish to get away therefrom, they will be forced thereinto. And it will be said to them, Taste ye the penalty of the fire, that the which ye were wont to reject as false. And indeed we will make them taste of the penalty of this life prior to the supreme penalty, in order that they may repent and return. And who does further wrong than one to whom are recited the signs of his Lord, and who then turns away therefrom? Verily from those who transgressed we shall exact due retribution. We did indeed aforetime give the book to Moshe. Be not then in doubt of its reaching thee. And we made it a guide to the children of Israel. And we appointed from amongst them leaders giving guidance under our command, so long as they persevered with patience and continued to have faith in our signs. Verily thy Lord will judge between them on the day of judgment, in the matters wherein they differ amongst themselves. Does it not teach them a lesson, how many generations we destroyed before them, in whose dwellings they now go to and fro? Verily in that are signs. Do they not then listen? And do they not see that we do drive rain to parched soil bare of herbage, and produce therewith crops, providing food for their cattle and themselves? Have they not the vision? They say, When will this decision be, if ye are telling the truth? Say, on the day of decision no benefit will it be to unbelievers if they then believe, nor will they be granted a respite. So turn away from them and wait. They too are waiting. Surah Al-Azab 33. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. O Prophet, fear Allah and hearken not to the unbelievers and the hypocrites. Verily Allah is full of knowledge and wisdom. But follow that which comes to thee by inspiration from thy Lord, for Allah is well acquainted with all that ye do. And put thy trust in Allah, and enough is Allah as a disposer of affairs. Allah has not made for any man two hearts in his one body, nor has Allah made your wives whom ye divorce by zihar your moors, nor has Allah made your adopted sons your sons. Such is only your manner of speech by your mouths. But Allah tells you the truth, and Allah shows the right way. Call them by their names of their fathers, that is juster in the sight of Allah. But if ye know not their fathers' names, call them your brothers in faith, or your mawlas. But there is no blame on you if you make a mistake therein. What counts is the intention of your hearts, and Allah is oft returning most merciful. The Prophet is closer to the believers than their own selves, and his wives are their moors. Blood relations amongst each other have closer personal ties in the decree of Allah than the brotherhood of believers and muhajirs. Nevertheless, do ye what is just to your closest friends, such as the writing in the decree of Allah. And remember, we took from the prophets their covenant, as we did from thee. From Noah, Abraham, Moshe, and Jesus the son of Mary, we took from them a solemn covenant, that Allah may question the custodians of truth concerning the truth they were charged with, and Allah has prepared for the unbelievers a grievous penalty. O ye who believe, remember the grace of Allah bestowed on you when there came down on you hosts to overwhelm you. But we sent against them a hurricane and forces that ye saw not. But Allah sees clearly all that ye do. Behold, they came on you from above you and from below you, and behold, the eyes became dim and the hearts gaped up to the throats, and you imagined various vain thoughts about Allah. In that situation where the believers tried, they were shaken as by a tremendous shaking. And behold, hypocrites and those in whose hearts is a disease even say, Allah and Allah's Messenger promised us nothing but delusion. Behold, a party amongst them said, Ye men of Yatrib, ye cannot stand the attack, therefore go back. And a band of them asked for leave of the Prophet, saying, Truly our houses are bare and exposed. Though they were not exposed, they intended nothing but to run away. And if an entry had been effected to them from the sides of the city, and they had been incited to sedition, they would certainly have brought it to pass, with none but a brief delay. And yet they had already covenanted with Allah not to turn their backs, and a covenant with Allah must surely be answered for. Say, running away will not benefit you if ye are running away from death or slaughter. And even if ye do escape, no further than a brief respite will ye be allowed to enjoy. Say, who is it that can screen you from Allah if it be Allah's wish to give you punishment or to give you mercy? Nor will they find for themselves besides Allah any protector or helper. Verily, Allah knows those amongst you who keep back men, and those who say to their brethren, Come along to us, but come not to the fight except for just a little while. Covetous over you. Then, when fear comes, thou wilt see them looking to thee, their eyes revolving like those of one over whom hovers death. But when the fear is past, they will smite you with sharp tongues, covetous of treasures. Such men have no faith, and so Allah has made their deeds of non-effect, and that is easy for Allah. They think that the Confederates have not withdrawn, and if the Confederates should come again, they would wish they were in the deserts wandering amongst the Bedouins and seeking news about you from a safe distance, and if they were in your midst, they would fight but little. Ye have indeed in the Messenger of Allah a beautiful pattern of conduct for anyone whose hope is in Allah and the final day, and who engages much in the praise of Allah. When the believers saw the Confederate forces, they said, This is what Allah and Allah's Messenger had promised us, and Allah and Allah's Messenger told us what was true, and it only added to their faith and their zeal and obedience. Amongst the believers are men who have been true to their covenant with Allah. Of them, some have completed their vow to the extreme, and some still wait, and they have never changed their determination in the least. That Allah may reward the men of truth for their truth, and punish the hypocrites if that be Allah's will, or turn to them in mercy, for Allah is oft-forgiving, most merciful. And Allah turned back the unbelievers for all their fury. No advantage did they gain, and enough is Allah for the believers in their fight, and Allah is full of strength, able to enforce Allah's will. And those of the people of the book who aided them, Allah did take them down from their strongholds and cast terror into their hearts, so that some ye slew and some you made prisoners. And Allah made you heirs of their lands, their houses, and their treasures, and of a land which ye had not frequented before, and Allah has power over all things. O Prophet, say to the consorts, if it be that ye desire the life of this world and its glitter, then come, I will provide for you your enjoyment and set you free in a handsome manner. But if ye seek Allah and Allah's Messenger and the home of the hereafter, verily Allah has prepared for the well-doers amongst you a great reward. O consorts of the Prophet, if any of you were guilty of evident unseemly conduct, the punishment would be doubled to her, and that is easy for Allah. But if any of you is devout in the service of Allah and Allah's Messenger and works righteousness, to her shall we grant her reward twice, and have prepared for her a generous sustenance. O consorts of the Prophet, ye are not like any of the other women. If ye do fear Allah, be not too complacent of speech, lest one whose heart is a disease should be moved with desire, but speak ye a speech that is just. And stay quietly in your houses, and make not a dazzling display like that of the former times of ignorance, and establish regular prayer, and give regular charity, and obey Allah and Allah's Messenger, and Allah only wishes to remove all abomination from you, ye members of the family, and to make you pure and spotless. And recite what is rehearsed to you in your homes of the signs of Allah and Allah's wisdom, for Allah understands the finest mysteries and is well acquainted with them. For Muslim men and women, for believing men and women, for devout men and women, for true men and women, for men and women who are patient and constant, for men and women who humble themselves, for men and women who give in charity, for men and women who fast and deny themselves, for men and women who guard their chastity, and for men and women who engage much in Allah's praise. For them has Allah prepared forgiveness and great reward. It is not fitting for a believer, man or woman, when a matter has been decided by Allah and Allah's Messenger, to have any option about their decision. If anyone disobeys Allah and Allah's Messenger, he is indeed on a clearly wrong path. Behold, thou didst say to one who had received the grace of Allah and thy favor, retain thou in wedlock thy wife and fear Allah, but thou didst hide in thy heart that which Allah was about to make manifest. Thou didst fear the people, but is further fitting that thou shouldst fear Allah. Then, when Zayd had dissolved his marriage with her, with the necessary formality, we joined her in marriage to thee, in order that in future there may be no difficulty to the believers in the matter of marriage with the wives of their adopted sons, when the latter have dissolved with the necessary formality their marriage with them, and Allah's command must be fulfilled. There could be no difficulty to the Prophet in what Allah has indicated to him as a duty. It was the practice approved of Allah amongst those of old that have passed away, and the command of Allah is a decree determined. It is the practice of those who preach the messages of Allah and fear none but Allah, and enough is Allah to call men to account. Muhammad is not the father of any of your men, but he is the messenger of Allah and the seal of the prophets, and Allah has full knowledge of all things. O ye who believe, celebrate the praises of Allah, and do this often, and glorify Allah meta and evening. Allah it is who sends blessings on you, as do Allah's angels, that Allah may bring you out from the depths of darkness into light, and Allah is full of mercy to the believers. The salutation on the day they meet Allah will be peace, and Allah has prepared for them a generous reward. Their salutation on the day they meet Allah will be salam, and Allah has prepared for them a generous reward. O Prophet, truly we have sent thee as a witness, a bearer of glad tidings, and a warner, and as one who invites to Allah's grace by Allah's leave, and as a lamp spreading light. Then give the glad tidings to the believers that they shall have from Allah a very great bounty. And obey not the behests of the unbelievers and the hypocrites, and heed not their annoyances, but put thy trust in Allah, for enough is Allah as a disposer of affairs. O ye who believe, when ye marry believing women, and then divorce them before ye have touched them, no period of iddat have ye to count in respect of them, so give them a present, and set them free in a handsome manner. O Prophet, we have made lawful to thee thy wives to whom thou hast paid their dowers, and those whom thy right hand possesses, out of the prisoners of war whom Allah has assigned to thee, and daughters of thy paternal uncles and aunts, and daughters of thy maternal uncles and aunts who migrated from Makkah with thee, and any believing woman who dedicates her soul to the Prophet, if the Prophet wishes to wed her. This only for thee, and not for the believers at large. We know we know what we have appointed for them as to their wives and the captives whom their right hands possess, in order that there should be no difficulty for thee, and Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. Thou mayest defer to the turn of any of them that thou pleasest, and thou mayest receive any thou pleasest, and there is no blame on thee if thou invite one whose turn thou hadst set aside. This were night, to the cooling of their eyes, the prevention of their grief, and their satisfaction, that all of them with that which thou hast to give them, and Allah knows all that is in your hearts, and Allah is all-knowing, most forbearing. It is not lawful for thee to marry further women after this, nor to change them for other wives, even though their beauty attract thee, except any thy right hand should possess, as handmaidens, and Allah doth watch over all things. O ye who believe, enter not the Prophet's houses until leave is given you for a meal, and then not so early as to wait for its preparation, but when ye are invited, enter, and when ye have taken your meal, disperse, without seeking familiar talk. Such behavior annoys the Prophet. He is ashamed to dismiss you, but Allah is not ashamed to tell you the truth. And when ye ask his ladies for anything ye want, ask them from before a screen that makes for a greater purity, and for your hearts and for theirs. Nor is it right for you that ye should annoy Allah's messenger, or that ye should marry his widows after him at any time. Truly such a thing is in Allah's sight an enormity. Whether you reveal anything or conceal it, verily Allah has full knowledge of all things. There is no blame on these ladies if they appear before their fathers or their sons, or their brothers or their brothers' sons, or their sisters' sons, or their women, or the slaves whom their right hands possess. And ladies, fear Allah, for Allah is witness to all things. Allah and Allah's angels send blessings on the Prophet. O ye that believe, send ye blessings on him, and salute him with all respect. Those who annoy Allah and Allah's messenger, Allah has cursed them in this world and in the hereafter, and has prepared for them a humiliating punishment. And those who annoy believing men and women undeservedly bear on themselves a calumny and a glaring sin. O Prophet, tell thy wives and daughters and the believing women that they should cast their outer garments over their persons when abroad. That is most convenient, that they should be known as such and not be molested. And Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. Truly, if the hypocrites and those in whose hearts is a disease, and those who stir up sedition in the city desist not, we shall certainly stir thee up against them. Then will they not be able to stay in it as thy neighbors for any length of time. They shall have a curse on them whenever they are found. They shall be seized and slain without mercy. Such was the practice approved of Allah amongst those who lived aforetime. No change wilt thou find in the practice approved of Allah. Men ask thee concerning the hour. Say that knowledge thereof is with Allah alone, and what will make thee understand? Perchance the hour is nigh. Verily Allah has cursed the unbelievers and prepared for them a blazing fire, to dwell therein forever, no protector nor will they have, nor helper. The day that their faces will be turned upside down in the fire, they will say, Woe to us! Woe that we had obeyed Allah and obeyed the Messenger. And they would say, Our Lord, we obeyed our Messenger, and we are great ones, and they misled us as to the right path. Our Lord, give them double penalty, and curse them with a very great curse. O ye who believe, be not like those who vexed and insulted Moshe, but Allah cleared him of the calumnies they had uttered, and he was honorable in Allah's sight. O ye who believe, fear Allah, and always say a word directed to the right, that Allah may make your conduct whole and sound, and forgive you your sins. He that obeys Allah and Allah's Messenger has already attained the highest achievement. We did indeed offer the trust to the heavens and the earth and the mountains, but they refused to undertake it, being afraid thereof. But man undertook it. He was indeed unjust and foolish, with the result that Allah has to punish the hypocrites, men and women, and the unbelievers, men and women, and Allah turns in mercy to the believers, men and women, for Allah is all forgiving, most merciful. Tao Te Ching, chapters 1 a 6. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. The nameless is the origin of heaven and earth. The named is the more of myriad things. Thus, constantly without desire, one observes its essence. Constantly with desire, one observes its manifestations. These two emerge together, but differ in name. The unity is said to be the mystery. Mystery of mysteries, the door to all wonders. When the world knows beauty as beauty, ugliness arises. When it knows benevolence as benevolence, evil arises. Thus being and non-being produce each other. Difficult and easy bring about each other. Long and short reveal each other. High and low support each other. Music and voice harmonize each other. Front and back follow each other. Therefore the sages manage the work of detached actions, conduct the teaching of no words. They work with myriad things but do not control. They create but do not possess. They act but do not presume. They succeed but do not dwell on success. It is because they do not dwell on success that it never goes away. Do not glorify the achievers, so the people will not squabble. Do not treasure treasures that are hard to obtain, so the people will not become thieves. Do not show the desired things, so their hearts will not be confused. Thus, the governance of the sage empties their hearts, fills their bellies, weakens their ambitions, strengthens their bones. Let the people have no cunning and no greed, so those who scheme will not dare to meddle. Act without contrivance, and nothing will be beyond control. The Tao is empty. When utilized, it is not filled up. So deep, it seems to be the source of all things. It blunts the sharpness, unravels the knots, dims the glare, mixes the dusts. So indistinct, it seems to exist. I do not know whose offspring it is. Its image is the predecessor of the emperor. Heaven and earth are impartial. They regard myriad things as straw dogs. The sages are impartial. They regard people as straw dogs. The space between heaven and earth, is it not like bellows? Empty and yet never exhausted. It moves and produces further. Too many words hasten failure. Cannot compare to keeping to the void. The valley spirit, undying, is called the mystic female. The gate of the mystic female is called the root of heaven and earth. It flows continuously, barely perceptible. Utilize it, it is never exhausted. Alhamdulillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allah wabha. Deus noster qui es in celis, sanctificato nomen tuum, vahigusanam. Dao kud dao fehung dao. Ja. Baruch chata Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher katzanu bo mitzvotav v'tzivonu, l'sok b'dvar Torah. Kyrie eleison. Sivu mastu salvagegatehi. Sabe sata bavantu sukitata. Vagabia. Umbutu. Shabona. Fekako. Akwaba upinala amani. Women Jacob. Shishe. Kamusunida. Domo arigato. Pilama yellow wakantakum. Talk odokashin good. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Go with the God. At the Jamayata Fanami. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Alhamdulillah Rahman Rahim. Allah Abham. Deus nos te qui es in celis, sanctificita nomen tuum, vahengu sanam. Dau kundau fehung dau. Ja. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Kyrie eleison. Sivo mastu savrigatehim. Sabe sata bavantu sukitata. Vagabiyam. Ubuntu. Shabana. Frekako. Aquaba upendan amani. Woman Jacob. Shishe. Como sunida. Domo arigato. Pelama yelo wakanto. Talk odogashin good. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Go with the God. Ata Jamayata Fanami. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Namaste. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom. Zaijen. Adios. Te Jakaris. Asamudwo. Kele Ofred. One love and peace.